Namaste. The topic of today's video is integration of phonic instruction with vocabulary instruction to develop proficiency in reading. Now, ACER, the Annual Status of Education Report 2022 of India, shows that across government and private schools, the proportion of children who can read has, in all the classes, has fallen from 2018 to 2022. Now, this is a matter of great concern for all concerned in the field of education. Today, I would like to talk about that. Now, the Education Ministry has launched a Nipun Bharat mission for the development of foundational literacy and numeracy. This was launched sometime in the month of July 2021, and various programs are going on across the country for the development of foundational literacy and numeracy. But still, we find that the proportion of children who are able to read has fallen from 2018 to 2022. Now, ACER reading test assists children whether a child can read letters, words, or a simple paragraph or a simple story. Now, coming to the aim of teaching English at the foundational level, it is actually to enable the child to build familiarity with the English language. The sounds, its sounds, there are 26 letters of the alphabet and there are 44 sounds. Then the structures in English and the meanings. As far as reading competency is concerned, it is a foundational skill and it's not a natural skill. Normally, given enough time around our youngsters, they will learn to walk upright and talk. But for most children, however, recognizing that certain letters correspond to certain sounds actually requires painstaking instruction. Now, there are many schools of thought on how best to aid this process, but the main issue has been about whether kids need to be taught how to sound out words explicitly in a clear and detailed manner, or if you give them enough examples and time, they will figure out the patterns themselves. So, there has been an issue between these two things, and the former is actually the phonics approach and the latter is the whole language approach. The advocates of phonic language give the analogy of driving a car. One may get in and out of a car 100 times or even 1,000 times every day, even every day, but to drive a car you need the basic knowledge about its parts and how they work. So, the advocates of phonics approach say that you need to first teach the child the letter sound relationships and then move forward. The latest research on children's reading development has shown that the phonics approach is more effective than the whole language approach in improving young children's reading skills. Scientifically based reading research has identified 5 essential components in reading instruction, and they are phonics, phonemic awareness, vocabulary, fluency, and comprehension. Now coming to the advantages of phonic approach. What are the advantages of phonic approach? First is the phonic approach focuses on analytical skills for breaking the code of the written language. This is the first advantage. Second one is phonics teach letter sound relationships to help children learn how to read. Children learn the sounds that each letter makes and how a change in the order of the letters changes the word meaning. The third advantage is here the children need not memorize the spellings. There is no need for children to memorize the spellings with the phonics approach. Using phonics, spellings can be decoded from the sounds. So these are the main advantages of the phonics approach. And coming to the next point, how can we choose a phonics program for our children? See, there are different commercial phonics programs available online. Some begin by highlighting the most frequently occurring letter in English and then teach the children how to blend the letters. Others have actually a different approach, that is by seeking to improve the children's phonological awareness, that is sound awareness and sound manipulation. They will first focus on the sound awareness and then the sound manipulation skills before teaching letter sound relationships. So these are the various programs that are available online. At the click of a button you can find there are different kinds of programs, phonics programs available commercially online also. Now having been in the field of education for a long time, I feel there are certain points that I have noted, that how should teachers actually follow a phonics approach. There are many programs available, but most of them are not that effective, and so teacher has to kind of develop their own approach towards helping the children become proficient in reading. Now, how should teachers actually follow the phonics approach at the foundational stage? I firmly believe that the phonics instruction should be integrated with vocabulary instruction, because the ultimate goal is actually to help the children to make sense of what they have sounded out from a text. Okay. Now consider, for example, what happens when a reader who is beginning to read comes across a word dig, okay, in a book. As he or she begins to figure out the sounds represented by the letters, that is D, I and G sounds, the reader recognizes that the sounds make up a very familiar word he or she has heard and said many times. Beginning readers have an easy time reading words that are already there in their oral vocabulary. This has to be kept in mind first. Now this can be done. How will we do this? Like how will we introduce oral vocabulary in the children? So with very young children, when we are helping them, when we are making an effort for the first process, how the child will read. So what is it? The first thing that has to be done is to kind of develop their oral vocabulary, and this oral vocabulary can be developed by listening. So the first thing when the child comes to school in a preschool or anything, oral instructions, the teacher should start with oral instructions. Now this can be done by introducing words using multisensory activities and stories. Lots of multisensory activities has to be conducted in the class, and teacher has to narrate a number of stories in the classroom so that the oral vocabulary of the child is developed. Now mind you, when you are giving oral vocabulary to the children at this stage, this input should be comprehensible to the child. It should be to the level of the child. For example, 3 plus, age 3 plus or 4 plus or 5 plus, at that particular age, the oral vocabulary that is being given to the child should be comprehensible to the child. So that point has to be kept in mind by the teachers. Now, there are lots of methods you can follow. Some of the methods I have listed here. They are narrating stories, reciting nursery rhymes and action song. Action songs actually, these are very good activities for developing oral vocabulary with total physical response of the child. It is very, children will pick up the vocabulary very quickly if it is presented in the form of nursery rhymes or action songs. Then using classroom language. The language that is being used in the class is very important. When the teacher interacts with the child, the language that the teacher uses with the child, like please sit down, please bring this, may I come in, and all these things, lots of classroom languages that helps the child to develop the oral vocabulary. Next thing is encouraging spontaneous conversation in English among the peer group. That is also very important. This can be followed. Communicative activities also has to be regularly organized in the class. There should be activities wherein children are able to communicate with one another, and children are also able to communicate with the teacher. Now, another important thing that has to be kept in mind is that the classroom or the school should be print rich. Children should be exposed to a print rich world. So just by looking at that, it is kind of a multi-sensory activity. By just looking at that, they will imbibe those vocabulary in their heads, and the oral vocabulary of the children will be developed. So the first step is to develop the oral vocabulary of the child. So once all these activities has been developed to a satisfactory level, the next level can be, we can start the next level, and the next level is to teach the letters of the alphabet with the corresponding sounds. Now, to teach the letters of the alphabet with the corresponding sounds, there are lots of activities available online. The teacher can pick up stories or videos, the right kind of videos has to be taken, and then it can be shown. And both the teacher has to keep in mind that both the uppercase and lowercase, the capital letters and small letters, both has to be taught to the children, and their corresponding sounds has to be taught. Why this is important is that most of our books, our printed books have small letters. So only introducing the capital letters will not be that effective. Children have to be introduced to the uppercase and the lowercase letters. So this is the next step. Next, third step is to teach CV and VC blends. Now, what are CV and VC blends? CV blends are consonant vowel, and VC are vowel consonant blends. 2-letter blends. First start with 2-letter blends, CV and VC blends. Blending actually refers to joining the beginning of one word and the end of another to make a new word. So, first oral vocabulary, second is the corresponding sound of the letters of the alphabet. Then the third step is CVVC words, that is blending two letters together and two letters together. Now, once that is satisfactorily achieved, continue this with CVC or CVCC, that is consonant, vowel, consonant, consonant, vowel, consonant, consonant, and 3 or 4 letter words. So, first 2 letter words, then 3 letter words, and then 4 letter words, so on and so forth. Okay. Now, once this has been achieved, the next very important step the teachers have to follow is to help the children to say the whole words. Whole words, the teacher should encourage the children to say the target words aloud. They should be asked to speak speak those words, to spell those words aloud. This can be done by embedding the words in rhymes or games. So, if those words are there in rhymes and games, it will be very interesting and it will be very effective activity for the children. Okay. Now, once the children are able to speak those words loudly, next step is to use activities to teach children phonological awareness. So, the first teachers have to understand, have to have a fair idea of what is phonological awareness, and then according to the age of the child and the understanding of the child, the phonological awareness has to be started. That is, there also the research actually indicates that children who have learned, who are having strong phonological awareness, what I mean by phonological awareness is sound awareness and sound manipulation. Children have already understood, they have already learned the sounds. Now, the next step is to be aware of the sounds and then to learn sound manipulation. Now, this phonological awareness, these children, research has shown that those children who are having phonological awareness, they acquire reading with greater ease and success than children who have it. So, the program has to be systematically followed, and wherever inputs are required, wherever remedial measures are required, that has to be given to the children. Then only all our children will be able to attain proficiency in reading with comprehension. Then only our Nipun Bharat mission will be successful. Now, what is sound awareness? Sound awareness refers to children's ability to identify the different sound units within a word. Different sound units within a word, to identify the different sound units. For example, syllables, onsets, rhymes and phonemes. Now, syllables, what is a syllable? Syllable is a part of a word that contains the sound, a part of the word that contains a sound. Okay, the particular sound, we can also call it phoneme of a word. It usually has a vowel in it, and words, there are many words. There are 2 syllable words, there are 3 syllable words, there are 4 syllable words, etc. For example, calculator. Now, to teach the syllables in calculator, first we have to understand how many syllables are there. In calculator, there are actually 4 syllables. The activity of clapping for one syllable can be used by the teacher here. For example, we want to teach the number of syllables in calculator. Cal, ku, le, ta. So, for each syllable, the teacher has to use one clap, and this has to be done this has to be practiced in the class with all the children following this. For you can start with 2 syllables. For example, paper. How many syllables are there? There are 2 syllables. The sounds are pay, per. So, one clap for one syllable and another clap for one more syllable. So, this can be practiced for 2 letter words, it can be 2 syllable words, it can be practiced for 3 syllable words, it can also be practiced for 4 syllables, etc. Now, activities like clapping hands, this will be very useful for the children to learn the syllables. Lots of other activities can also be given to for teaching the onset and the rhyme. And then once this sound awareness is understood by the children, we can move further to sound manipulation. Now, sound manipulation includes combining sounds to form a word known as blending, or breaking down a word into its component sound units, which is known as segmentation. So, blending and segmentation are very important part of sound manipulation. Now, worksheets can be given for this purpose. Actually, a PDF of an extremely useful worksheets for sounds of letters, individual for all the all the stages of phonics instructions, along with vocabulary instruction. The PDF of these worksheets of sound letters, individual sounds, phonological awareness for blending, segmentation, onset, rhyme and much more is actually given in the description box. It is a very useful PDF. Lots of worksheets are there. It can be downloaded and it can be given to the children for practice. Now, I have spoken so much about the program of phonics, how it is useful to the children and how it will help our children to develop the proficiency in reading with understanding. When I am talking about the advantages of phonics programs, there are a few limitations also to the phonics program, and we must understand the limitations of phonics program to understand the whole process of how the children, how the child tries to read. Now, while phonics can help children to learn sound out both familiar and unfamiliar words in text, the approach has its limitations, and in English actually we have high frequency words, some of them are irregular words. Now, for example, the word one, O-N-E, one does not have W. It does not have the W sound, the W sound, but it begins with W. We say O-N-E, one. So, there is no relation between the sound and the letters here. So, what does this mean? So, this means that children will still need to rote learn the pronunciation of many words. However, from an educational perspective, being able to predict the pronunciation of many words using letter sound knowledge is still better than having to rote learn the pronunciation of all the words in a text. So, whatever the limitations, but still I strongly believe that phonic instruction should be integrated with vocabulary instruction for developing proficiency in reading skill. I hope this video will be useful to all the teachers and all the educationists out there. Happy reading.